tell you a little story about Srila Prabhupada. Some of you will have heard it. Rasamrita Devi Dasi knows the story. And I imagine some others of you do too. Prabhupada was doing a deity installation in our new temple in Amsterdam, 1972, long time ago. So he's doing a deity installation. They'd never done one before in the country. They didn't know what to do and what not to do and how to do things. They just didn't know. So they're trying to do, it's a bit involved, a deity installation. And they're making many mistakes, and Prabhupada was getting a little frustrated, correcting them. Don't do this, do that. And, on multiple occasions. Finally, they're almost at the end. They're going to do a fire sacrifice, Havan. They're going to do a fire sacrifice. And when you do a fire sacrifice, at least the right way, is, you get together the Havan Kund where the fire is going to be. But then around that, you decorate it with whole fruits and even vegetables sometimes, but particularly fruits, whole apples, whole bananas, whole oranges, etc. So the devotees, the place for doing it is ready, but there's no fruits around it. And the temple president came and said, I think we're ready for the fire sacrifice. Prabhupada said, where are the fruits? And temple president went, fruits. In the kitchen. He ran in the kitchen and told, there's all the cooks there, where are the fruits? Prabhupada wants the fruits. Where are the fruits? Prabhupada, when he ate fruit, which he doesn't want to do now, he wants whole fruits around the Havan. But when he ate fruit, he would have it chopped up. Fruit salad. So the devotees thought, Prabhupada wants fruit salad, right? So in 2 minutes, they got together the fastest fruit salad in the history of ISKCON. Quite a serious bowl of fruit salad. And temple president brought out, here, Prabhupada, here's the fruit. And Prabhupada looked at it. And they say, when Prabhupada was really angry, he would, he'd express it. He would even shout a little sometimes, not so much, but he'd raise his voice and get, a little forceful. But when he was really upset or really angry, he wouldn't say anything. This time he didn't say anything. He just looked to the side. And that was it. Now, on the side, like here, like where this microphone stand is, was a young hippie boy who was like really sort of greasy and not clean and but he was a little bit of a devotee, not too much, but something. So he had beads in a bead bag, and he's standing like literally 6 inches from Prabhupada, chanting on his beads in his bead bag. And he sees all these things happening, and Prabhupada's just getting more tired of the whole situation at every step. And finally comes the fruit salad. And now Prabhupada looks around, and he's standing right where Prabhupada's looking. And the boy leant over to Srila Prabhupada, and in a sort of knowing voice, he said, Srila Prabhupada, just chant Hare Krishna. But the thing is, when you're dealing with seniors, particularly someone who's really senior to you, I mean, in the extreme, you don't try and give them advice, particularly about how to be Krishna conscious. So Prabhupada looked at him. Prabhupada picked up his beads and started chanting Hare Krishna. Because they say you can take gold from a dirty place. So anyway, we should learn how to interact with those, particularly with those who are senior, and particularly with those who are, there are different degrees of senior, those who are on higher levels of senior. Learn how to deal with them nicely, particularly through pariprashnena and sevaya, not giving advice or instructions. Those who are on your level, more or less, they've been devotees as long as you or something along those lines, befriend them. Befriend them and develop friendly relationship, do service together as a team, not like the boss and the junior. I remember my first service, like regular service, when I joined the temple in London. First of all, for maybe a week I was doing this and doing that and doing just whatever they asked. After a week, they had me wash the pots. And there were a lot of pots. We were at least 60 living in the temple. And all these big pots. And would you believe, devotees and friends, we had no hot water. It didn't exist. Because we were extremely poor. No hot water, and we didn't have any soap, like liquid soap for washing pots. All we had were these like Brillo pads, if you know what they are, like these metal pads sort of things. And there was me, like the whole day, trying to clean these pots, but it was too much. So after about a week, and the backlog of pots was building up, they saw I needed help. So they gave me an assistant. I then became the head pot washer. My first managerial post. First of many. Yeah. But, I can't remember how I dealt with it. But I should have just dealt with him as a friend and just worked together. And I shouldn't have been bossy with him. Yeah, like that. And with people who are junior, we got to look after them and help them. Yeah. So they feel cared for. That someone's interested in actually helping them. And then, they'll be encouraged. Let's get into it more because these people are nice and they're really helping me. They're being nice to me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
And we should do all of this in Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON. Because otherwise, if people go off and think, I'm just going to be Krishna conscious myself, I'll go to the Drakensberg and just chant Hare Krishna to the rocks. And we've got to be together in the society, the community of devotees in Prabhupada's ISKCON, ideally. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Now, the day is young. We have time. It's okay. Just relax. Oh, a question. Yeah, I was going to ask if anyone has any questions, comments, or, anything they'd like to add or subtract. Yes, please.
Okay. Sorry, I know I've been speaking to you the whole day. I can't run out of questions, so if you don't mind.
I'm waiting.
So what I've noticed, because I've been now a devotee for a year,
Okay.
what I've noticed, especially with regards to what you spoke about today, is sometimes
With what?
with being a part of ISKCON for the last year.
Okay.
What I've noticed is sometimes it is that interaction that puts those blockages in
Yeah.
people wanting to come to temple all the time.
Right.
And then they want to go and chant to the rocks. So I was wondering, because what I'm struggling with sometimes is being a younger devotee. If, for example, we see older devotees doing something where it makes me feel like, okay, something feels a little bit like I'm not sure if this is okay or not okay,
Right.
I tend to just say, okay, let me give the person the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure that maybe this moment is just not bringing out the best in them. Is that the right approach? What should I do in those circumstances?
Right, okay. Hope you all got that. Kalista's saying that sometimes when she associates with someone because she's been a devotee a year. I remember when I was a new devotee, if you had been a devotee a year, you were quite a senior devotee. Oh yeah, 2 years, you were definitely a senior devotee. 3 years, or something like that, shoo, you were just worshipable. But sometimes she's with a more senior devotee who does something which sort of strikes her as being kind of unusual in Krishna. Is this really Krishna conscious, or what is it? Something like that. And I mean, it's understandable, because you're dealing with Krishna consciousness, which is very diverse, actually, and multifaceted. So there are definitely things which you haven't encountered, which when you encounter them, you won't know what on earth is this. So, but anyway, in that sort of situation, she meets someone who's senior, but doing something which she doesn't, it seems strange to her. Is it really Krishna conscious? But rather than sort of get into it and try and find out, is it or isn't it, what you just sort of let it go.
So just to clarify, instead of, like you say, instead of me telling someone older, hey, you know what,
Yeah.
I know that this is not right or something, I don't feel like it's right, like you're saying, but what do I do in those circumstances?
What do? You just ignore it and go away, sort of thing, is it? Okay, but anyway, yeah, right. No, that's an important point. Because you don't want to sort of walk into a situation and start challenging. Because, when people, just anyone, gets challenged, then there's a natural reaction like, hey, what you're doing to me, who do you think you are? And they may be right, actually. Yeah, I mean, in a certain sense. But if it troubles you, I mean, there's a very good chance that it's okay. A very good chance if the person is senior, because, you'd expect someone's senior, they do things, and it's okay. Or good even. But if it bothers you, it's important if it bothers you, because being bothered in Krishna consciousness can upset our Krishna consciousness and sort of destabilize our Krishna consciousness. So, if it's really to that point, it would be a good idea it'd be a good idea to have a mentor. I mean, we have there are systems of mentorship around, but it's not as well established as it needs to be and as I think it will be in due course. But if you happen to have a good mentor, someone who knows you and, sort of understands you and is ready to help you and take a bit of time and trouble to help you, then you can go to such a person and describe the situation to them. And, there's every chance you will get a good explanation, which may be that, it's okay for this reason and that, and then you may understand, okay, that's interesting. Or they may actually say, well, no, it's not good. They shouldn't be doing that. Doesn't mean you then need to go back to that person and say, hey, you're doing the wrong thing, because I asked my mentor, get your mentor into trouble too. No, you just understand, okay. And then you understand. And if, because it happens, it's not that it doesn't happen, it happens, that someone who is senior, more senior, or even quite senior, may actually somehow or other do something which is really wrong. It's not that it cannot happen, it happens. It's not common, but it happens. So by your having brought it to the attention of the mentor, who is a more senior devotee, of course, then the mentor will understand that, hey, there's something wrong with that devotee, and then something can be done to approach that devotee and try and help them if they're getting into some difficult situation in Krishna consciousness, but somehow, they're just sort of not able to deal with it. So therefore it's good, even if you don't exactly have a specific mentor, although that'd be an excellent idea, a qualified mentor, not just anyone, just stick a label on their forehead, mentor, I am a mentor. But someone who's qualified, if you don't, then best to approach like someone who's really, even like the authority. Because a person who is the authority is sort of like by default, the default mentor for everybody, which is not an easy position to be in. Depends how many everybody is, but if it's 50 people, to be mentor for 50 people is not easy, like in a personal way. So it's like that. Even if there is no official mentorship program with officially designated mentors, like a list, you can choose one of these people. But you can also choose someone, or sort of try it out with someone. Ask them, from time to time, questions arise in my mind and I can't figure them out. Would you mind if I came to you from time to time and just ask you some question? And many of the devotees will say, yeah, okay. And then, so now you're establishing like a relationship with a type of a mentor, even though it's unofficial. How does that sound? Thank you. Anyone else? Wasn't that a nice question? That was a good one. I mean, we could say a lot more about that too, but anyone else? Or I shouldn't say anyone else, but who has a question? Oh, yes. Nataji, please. Loud and clear.
Hare Krishna.
Namaskar Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. First of all, thank you so much for honoring us by your presence today. It's so wonderful, wonderful to have you here. And I hope Maharaj's health is better.
Yes, for someone who's 73 years old, my health is pretty good.
I'm so happy to hear that. I'm so happy to hear. So Maharaj, my question in accordance with what Maharaj was speaking about. Even in the association of devotees, as you had mentioned that we have the senior devotees on the same level and junior devotees, even within that, even if we're trying to navigate on that level, on those different levels, you will still find that everybody is not of the same thinking level. And there are different ways of approaching issues. So how do we navigate around that?
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, that's why, in principle, that's why where we have mentorship systems, there's not just one mentor, but we have different mentors because different of the devotees who need mentoring, they have different natures and different sort of attitudes, and they're coming from different backgrounds. So they can, just check everyone out and see, who hopefully maybe someone I can sort of click with. You know what I mean? And the idea in structuring it like that is to try and offer a variety of types of persons to the variety of younger devotees. And even, the same principle exactly applies in regard to spiritual masters, not just mentors. Not all spiritual masters are like, just think the same. They all think of Krishna, and they all think about how to serve Krishna, and how to chant, and how to help devotees, etc., etc. But all spiritual masters, everyone is an individual. So some have a certain type of nature, others have a somewhat different type of nature, others have even a very different type of nature. Some may, like there's one devotee, I won't mention his name, but he has been for his life a book distributor. And so he's a spiritual master, and he has quite a number of disciples, but he's particularly able to help devotees who are interested in doing book distribution. Not only them, but he can really help them. Whereas some other spiritual masters who not that they have no interest in book distribution, but they're not so much into it, but they have other types of interests. They can help more some other types of devotees. Right? That makes sense, right? In principle. And that's why it's good in ISKCON. When Prabhupada was here, he was the only one spiritual master. And basically it worked. It seems to have worked for everyone. There were a lot of hippies, kind of wild people, but there were some business people and, people like that, older people. But Prabhupada, he was such a transcendental person. He could work with just anyone who wanted to be Krishna conscious. But, it doesn't mean that all spiritual masters, including today, they're going to be able to do like that. Some will be more effective at dealing with certain types of devotees, but not maybe, it depends, maybe not with certain other types of devotees. And therefore we have many spiritual masters. I've lost track of how many, but it's around 100. Yeah. And really, well, I know many of them very well. And some of them are really different from each other. But they're just great. Yeah. But the principle is to give devotees a choice, so they can find a spiritual master who they will feel comfortable with as much as possible. Yeah. How does that sound? It's such a good question, all these good questions. You know what they told me? They told me the devotees in Estcourt are very intelligent. And in Newcastle too. So, I mean, I've got all day. Do you have a question, is it?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much. You know, on the principle of Lama Mantra,
Mm-hmm.
that one so much of the second association and the concept of bona fide. Just from your personal experience when you met A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, was there a clicking of both of those concepts?
Okay. Well, yes. It wasn't just momentary. I mean, the initial experience obviously was, but it all went on for, I don't know, at least half an hour or something like that. But I wouldn't say that I felt like click. Here we are, this is it. I found him. Well, I was looking for a spiritual master. But you know what I did find? And it was such a vivid experience, wow, that after having had Prabhupada's, short half an hour association, my perspectives on life changed very quickly and very deeply, in the sense that I started seeing material life and the people involved in material life very differently as people who are really suffering. Oh yeah, what an experience. Because I was going to university every day. I was staying at my parents' place, going by bus from the suburbs into the center of the city, because the university was pretty much right in the center of the city. And I'd have to walk up the main street for like 15 minutes. Then the university was a few hundred meters up on the left. So I'd see all these people who are working and running around and doing this and doing that and so on. And I would see so clearly, what are these people doing with their lives? They're not happy. They could be doing other things, and they'd like to, but they have to work in this rat race. And so they've become like rats. And before I didn't see things like that. But it was such a vivid experience. And I actually developed, you could say, almost like at least a minor state of depression, feeling, wow, look at these people, what are they doing? They're destroying themselves. It really affected me deeply, but before that, I didn't have that type of awareness. But then, when I moved into the temple in London, I mentioned yesterday, wasn't it? That you went there, but anyway, just maybe yesterday. I was sitting in Prabhupada's main room in Berry Place Temple. And it was a room about, less than half the size of this room. If you sort of cut it off here, like this size. And there was a picture of Prabhupada on the one wall. Say the wall's approximately the size of this behind me. The picture of Prabhupada was about that size. It was huge. Huge photo of Prabhupada. And Prabhupada, it was one of those photos when wherever you're sitting or standing, the person's eyes are looking at you, you know? So Prabhupada was looking at me, and looking at me, really looking at me, but in a very compassionate way. And then it moved me, and I was thinking how he had helped me, because this was after just a few weeks, and my life had changed so much for the better. Wow, it was unrecognizable actually. And I felt so much gratitude that actually I came to the point of tears. Wow, Prabhupada, what he's done for me, just incredible. And so certainly at that point, you know, that was it. He's my spiritual master. Yeah. And I never thought any other way after that, ever, till today. So devotees, what to do? It's 3:39. Anyone? Yes, sir.
I just want to know if how do we fill that void that's left if a devotee or the spiritual master leaves? Does it latch on to them and they're not there anymore?
Yes. Yeah, that's a very important point. Extremely. Yeah, particularly when the spiritual master leaves, but it can also be, you know, with another devotee who you've developed a very close relationship. The thing is, particularly with the spiritual master, but it also applies to any good devotee, actually. Even though they may not be present physically in the world, but they're still present spiritually, particularly in their instructions. If we remember their instructions, then we'll feel them with us. And if we also just remember them, we'll feel their presence. And, you know, that applies when they've left this world, but it also applies when they just, you know, they're no longer in, say, Pietermaritzburg. Now they've gone back to Durban, you know, they're still alive, but they're just not physically with you. Through remembering the instructions and remembering the person, you can feel. I mean, you should be able to feel, but if you cultivate it, if you allow yourself to become convinced that this point of the philosophy is correct, and it's not just, you know, some interesting idea, but if you allow yourself to accept that in your heart, then you'll feel their presence. You'll definitely feel their presence. And that's how disciples of Prabhupada, who haven't seen him since 1977, that's a long time, almost 50 years, but they're very happy to be engaged in his service and in his mission and repeating his words like that, because they know he's present and they feel his presence. And Prabhupada, sometimes when he was interviewed, he would be asked, you know, how are you doing this alone, on your own? And Prabhupada, he would always answer, I'm never alone. My spiritual master is always with me. And, you know, an interesting experience, would you believe? with Nelson Mandela himself. When he'd recently been released from prison, and he wasn't president yet, but he was, big man, ANC, and it was all happening around Nelson Mandela. So he was visiting different sort of institutions around Durban, and they brought him to our temple in Chatsworth. And I was deputed to show him around. So I showed him around for about an hour and a half. And, a lot of discussion about this and that. And we went into the temple room. We met actually on the bridge going up to the temple room, into the temple room, around to Prabhupada, who's on the left. He bowed down in front of Prabhupada. Then he got up, and we walked across the temple room to the other side, the southern side, you would say, if you know what I mean by that. And we sat down, and we're looking back in that direction. And Nelson Mandela, he turned to me, and in, sort of a knowing way, he was, and he expressed himself very nicely. He said, how did he do it? Like that. How did he do it? And I explained, well, he was in his way, he was a revolutionary like you, in his way. And then I told him that he always felt that his spiritual master was with him. He never felt that he was alone. And Nelson Mandela nodded his head and said, yeah, right, I understand that. It was a very interesting exchange. And it's like that. My first experience of that, if I may say, was when Prabhupada came to England it must have been 73. It was 73. To install Radha Gokulananda and Bhaktivedanta Manor. Now I was staying, as Prabhu told you all, I was temple commander in Berry Place, in central London. There are two temples, the central London one and the big manor just outside London. So Prabhupada came to do the installation of Radha Gokulananda. And all the devotees from the central city temple, means like 50 or 60 devotees, everyone wanted to go, to be there with Prabhupada when he did the installation. But I was temple commander. And the temple president is still a very good friend of mine. He's Irish. And he said to me, I can't imitate an Irish accent. One of us will have to stay. Because it was Janmashtami Day. It was Janmashtami. And, people were going to come to the central city temple, and there was a whole program going to happen till midnight, and prasadam and, hundreds of people. So he told me one of us is going to have to stay. Take a wild guess which one of us had to stay. It was me. So there I was, and I was a little like, oh, shame. But then I thought, I just thought to myself, this is service to Prabhupada. And I had read enough, I was aware enough of these things, like the presence of transcendental personalities in their physical absence, how they're present. So I thought, Prabhupada's with me. He's with me. And I got this important service, which clearly has to be done. So I just started meditating on Prabhupada being with me. And within minutes, I felt that Prabhupada was with me within minutes. And the whole day I went through like that, busy till midnight. But feeling, like really consciously feeling, Prabhupada's with me because I'm serving him. Yeah, so, and it was a very strengthening experience. And it was a very like endearing type of experience. It's really nice. Anyway, yeah, I mean, in order to, the thing is to really grasp these things and internalize them so they become like sort of facts in your conscious life. One has to chant 16 rounds, for example, and follow the principles and be an active devotee. I mean, I'm not saying you're not, but I'm just saying that one has to be like that. Otherwise, the experience, it may well be there, but it won't be as profound or clear. Yeah. So we do have to, because like chanting 16 rounds minimum is the foundation of the development of our state of consciousness. Yeah. And without it, we give the example that in order to drive from Estcourt to Durban, as we're going to do shortly, or Estcourt to Newcastle, as you're going to do shortly, or Estcourt to Pietermaritzburg, as you're going to do shortly, you need a minimum amount of petrol or diesel, whatever, fuel. You just got to have it. If you don't have it, no, you'll carry on for a while, but then you'll stop, and there you are, and you're sort of, you're in trouble. So similarly, or it can also be said, I mean, that's a very sort of clear example, I would say, but it can also be said that, you have to eat. If you don't eat, you run out of steam. I mean, I think most of us fasted, isn't it? On, what was it, on Monday? Tuesday.
Monday and Tuesday.
Janmashtami. Yeah, so particularly Janmashtami, we fast till midnight. And, even me, I've never missed a Janmashtami. So it's now 50 odd years. But by the time 5 or 6 o'clock comes, it's a bit like, yeah, okay, how many more hours to go? It's that sort of thing. Or maybe for you, on the Sunday program, when it's 3:50, and you haven't had prasadam yet, you look and say, wow. Anyway, don't worry. Soon. It tastes, the more hungry you are, the better it tastes. It's a very important part of the science. So it's actually mercy that you're not going to be, you haven't eaten at the normal time. Yes, so right, yeah, that's the idea. Anyway, we get to that point like, sure, this is a bit, it's a bit tough. But then, we get back into it and we go through till midnight and it's okay and it's fun. But you get the idea in principle, right? Yeah. So, yeah, particularly to get through the journey nicely, you need at least a minimum amount of fuel. To have more is fine, great, but at least the minimum. If you got less than the minimum, you run out on the way, and then you're stuck. So, yeah, this is like a simple way of understanding why 16 rounds is there. Some say, well, why not 15, why not 17? But Prabhupada scientifically arranged minimum 16. and it matters. It's important. Hare Krishna. Now I think I should let you take prasadam class. The class that no one falls asleep in. I have seen people fall asleep while taking prasadam, actually. It's rare. So is that okay?
Yes, thank you.
It's all right.
Yes, thank you.
All right. If anyone's got any other point they'd like to raise, you can just speak to me after. I'll be here for a while.